Ars Poetica Universalis by Howard W. Robertson. This is the poetics of poema, of the made thing in the most primordial and universal sense. These poems are written for the spirit of the universe. The poet crawls down subterranean passageways to a profound cavern, where he daubs images of the cosmos with earthen colors. These images there in that sacred space can be heard as strange song. Each poem is an ode, a fiction, an essay, an abstract painting, and a jazz recording. This poetry is a mimesis of the streaming of being through non-being. Consequently, it flows continuously, pausing at times but rarely stopping. It differs from other free verse in that the line breaks never halt the fluent forward movement. Line breaks work here to shape the visual text, to place each word in a spatial relationship to every other, as well as to the circumambient blankness. Stones in the Zen garden. Though as with expressions of Satori, often this relationship to space is purposely unpretentious, possibly misleading the reader into assuming that the asymmetrical placement of verbal boulders in sandy silence is unintentional, that the perfectly natural is not exactly right. Paradoxically, line breaks exist in these poems so that one may deny their existence so far as the phonic flow goes. They become creek bed and banks for the ceaseless stream. In practical terms, this means the line breaks are for looking at, but do not directly affect the utterance of the text, do not correspond to pauses or any other kind of breath unit. The syntactical and various other grammatical elements of the English language are utilized in these poems to mimic the invisible connections that form and impel universal reality. Each passage is technically an inventive sentence, not run on, but transgressively long, that has transcended in its own limitations to become something beyond convention, quite other, and liberatingly liminal. These odes rush torrentially from the watershed of Neruda, of Whitman, of the English Romantics, of Ronsard, and ultimately from the ancient flow songs of Horace and Pindar. From the former of these, archaic too primarily derives the intimacy and personal nature of these reodes. From the latter's triadic external structure authentically develops the essential inner dynamic. Strophe, antistrophe, epode, metamorphose, methodologically into everydayness, arcana, insight, and an organically individualized lyric surges forth from this subtle kinetic triangulation. This poetry affirms with Aristotle that universal truth is best told through ficta, while facta only conjure a particular and therefore quite limited verity. Any inspired poet will change details of a poem to bring out the maximum truth and beauty possible. Every great poem is fundamentally fictitious, no matter how many facts from the author's life it includes. These odes are honest fictions, albeit radically autobiographical ones. Their narrator, Lee Douglas, resides in the small Oregon city of New Geneva at the heart of Campbell County, whose southern border abuts Lane County. Northern edge adjoins Benton and Lynn counties. Eastern reach matches the ridgeline of the Cascade Mountains, and western boundary bathes in the Pacific Ocean. The other European languages most relevant to the history of this invented county are frequently involved in the poems for purposes of mythopoeic resonance. French, Spanish, Russian, German, Latin, and Greek. The fictional technique in this poetics is never psychological stream of consciousness. Rather, it is mystical stream of cosmos. The narrative self becomes an individual center in the collective process of culturally creating finite forms of immanent meaning from the limitless flow of transcendent spirit through the endless universe. Que sais-je? These poems are attempts in Montaigne's original sense of essay. They explore along the fractal, epistemological frontiers of the known. Each poem ventures with Emersonian boldness down winding, intuitive pathways of the soul. The intentional result of such an endeavor invariably is an essay of existential discovery, an enterprising foray into the discursive wilderness. This poetry is literally visionary. It portrays visually the drift and swirl of the things themselves and of the interstitial emptiness between them. It depicts the dazzle of the light and the darkness of every passing moment, the temporal chiaroscuro of shadowy everydayness and of shimmering intensity, of extended stretches of verbal coruscation alternating with dark pools of semiotic mundaneness. Words and fragmentary phrases gather vaguely around a particular theme, are absorbed into the brilliant obscurity of the unconscious, then emerge into sharp black shape on the bright white page. The text centers itself without left or right justification, and thus streams forward with no hardened edge to its braided riverine flux, as it meanders off across the symbolic void. Each poem is as rigorously made as an acrylic or oil by Pollock, Toby, or Clay. Every single word is scrutinized compulsively a minimum of 100 times. Every punctuation decision is obsessively reviewed. Yet when at last declaimed, the whole flows freely and as easily as if effortlessly spontaneous. Reality never fails, nor does the phenomenal revelatory streaming of its representation in these poems. Like the holiness of train, or the freedom of bird, or the coolness of miles, the mimetic expressiveness of this roiling writing connects spiritually with the mutable ontic current of the irrepressible world. The unification of divine mind and cosmic body in the universal omphalos breathes forth the sacred sound of the audibly authentic and unexpectedly harmonious, which is the energetic jazz of this unfettered poetry. Uc estin prophetes atimas eme in te patridi. Matthew 13:57. These poems are composed with the profound sense that they are somehow already recognized throughout the unimaginable vastness of the teeming pluriverse, even if not yet amply appreciated by humans hereabouts on our diminutive planet Earth. Perhaps this rash inkling constitutes quixotic madness, or maybe all innovators feel similarly when they abandon fear and open themselves up without reserve to the infinite spiraling influx of the divine. The Rheod and the Key Spiral are two pragmatic embodiments of these poems. The Rheod is a peripatetically continuous flow song that wanders and returns through paratactic and hypotactic means. The Key Spiral is a helical structure whose kinetic axis is a single lavishly simple sentence, around which a kaleidoscopic array of unexpected connections is organized. The Key Spiral is in fact a type of Rheod, sharing with it all the foregoing wild aspirations and rash intention.